Imagine you're out for a run. It's a route you've done 1,000 times. You hit that first mile marker, and usually this is where the magic happens. The stiffness fades, the endorphins kick in, and your body it takes over. It's autopilot. But today, the autopilot doesn't engage. Instead of a second wind, you hit a wall. And I don't mean the marathon runner's wall at mile 20. I mean a physiological stop sign. Your legs feel like lead. Your heart is pounding way too hard for this pace. And suddenly, you're not just tired, you're shaky. You're dizzy. You feel like the power cord to your body just got yanked out of the wall.
And the scariest part isn't the fatigue itself. It's the confusion. Because your brain is saying, push through it. You've done this before. But your biology is screaming, if you take one more step, we are shutting down.
That sensation is the daily reality for thousands of people living with adrenal insufficiency who are trying to stay active. It's the subject of a really compelling article from the My Adrenal Life community titled Muscle Atrophy, Exercise, and Finding Balance with Adrenal Insufficiency. We are diving deep into this today because it touches on something so fundamental, how we define strength when our body's fuel system has fundamentally changed.
It really is a fundamental change. We aren't just talking about feeling a bit weaker. We're talking about a cellular rewiring of how muscles grow, how they repair, and how they access energy. If you have Addison's disease or secondary adrenal insufficiency, the rules of exercise you grew up with, no pain, no gain, sweat is weakness leaving the body, those rules aren't just wrong for you, they're dangerous.
Let's start with the hard science here, because the article makes a claim that I think validates a lot of people's frustration. It says muscle weakness in AI isn't just in your head or a side effect of being tired, it's biological. Specifically, it mentions myostatin. Eloise, break that down for us. What is myostatin, and why is it bullying my muscles?
Think of myostatin as a parking brake for muscle growth. It's a protein that your body produces to stop muscles from getting too big. In a healthy body, it's regulated. But the research highlighted in the article, specifically studies on adrenalectomized animals, meaning those without adrenal glands, showed something fascinating and terrible. When cortisol is chronically low, active myostatin levels go up.
So wait, if my cortisol is low because I'm underdosed or just in a dip, my body is chemically signaling my muscles to stop growing?
Exactly. You have this brake pressed down hard. The study they referenced found measurable muscle atrophy, actual shrinking of muscle fibers caused directly by this hormonal imbalance. So you have patients who are going to the gym, lifting weights, trying to do the right thing, but their internal chemistry is fighting the process. It's not that they aren't working hard enough, it's that the growth signal is being blocked by this myostatin surge.
That explains the atrophy part. But what about the bunk? The article mentions that low cortisol changes how we metabolize energy during exercise. I think most people know cortisol as the stress hormone, but they don't realize it's actually a fuel hormone.
That is the single biggest misconception. We vilify cortisol because of stress culture, but biologically, cortisol is the key that unlocks the pantry. When you start jogging, your body burns through the glucose in your bloodstream pretty fast. To keep going, you need to access stored energy, glycogen in the liver, amino acids, fats. Cortisol is the manager that goes into the warehouse and says, release the glucose. We need fuel.
And if the manager is on a lunch break, or in the case of AI, the manager was fired 3 years ago,
then the warehouse stays locked. You can have fuel stored in your body, but your muscles can't get to it. This was shown in a landmark physiology study from the late 90s cited in the piece. Low cortisol states impair glucose availability. So you're running, and suddenly, snap, your blood sugar drops, your muscles run dry, and you get that shaky, I'm gonna pass out feeling. It's a metabolic crash, not a fitness failure.
This brings us to the nuance that I found most difficult to wrap my head around. If the problem is a lack of cortisol, wouldn't the solution just be take more hydrocortisone before you run? But the article points out a study that says it's not that simple.
Right. This was a 2015 study on patients with primary adrenal insufficiency. They gave them an extra dose of hydrocortisone before short, strenuous activity. And guess what? it didn't improve their physical performance. They didn't run faster or lift heavier.
Why not? That seems counterintuitive. If the tank is empty, shouldn't filling it help?
Because a pill is not a gland. That's the crux of it. A healthy adrenal gland is a dynamic, responsive organ. It's pulsing cortisol into your blood in microdoses, reacting second by second to blood pressure changes, electrolyte shifts, and exertion levels. It's a smart system. Taking a tablet of hydrocortisone is a dumb system. It's a flood of hormone all at once, which eventually tapers off. It doesn't mimic that intricate dance required for high-performance athletics. So you might prevent a crisis by updosing, which is crucial for safety, but you won't necessarily reclaim your old athletic peak just by popping a pill.
That's a hard pill to swallow, pun intended. It brings us to the psychological side of this, which the My Adrenal Life article touches on beautifully. There's a quote from a community member who said, "My whole life, nature carried me, but adrenal insufficiency is different." We have to talk about the identity crisis here. If you're someone who identifies as a runner, a hiker, a lifter, what happens when your body stops cooperating with your willpower?
It's devastating. We see this in elite athletes who develop chronic illnesses. There's a profound grief. The article uses the phrase waking up in someone else's body, and that is so accurate. You have the same drive, the same mental toughness, but the machinery has changed. And the danger is that your mental toughness, the thing that made you a great athlete, is now your enemy.
Because you try to push through.
Exactly. In a healthy person, pushing through the burn triggers adaptation. Muscles get stronger. In an adrenal insufficient body, pushing through the burn, especially that shaky, low cortisol burn, triggers catabolism. You are breaking down tissue that you cannot easily repair. You risk an adrenal crisis, which can land you in the ER. So the no pain, no gain mantra is actually a prescription for a hospital visit.
The article mentions an overtraining-like syndrome. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, overtraining syndrome in elite athletes happens when you train so hard your hormones go out of whack, cortisol shoots up, testosterone drops, you're exhausted. For someone with AI, if you under-replace your steroids or overexert yourself, you enter a similar state almost immediately. Fatigue, inflammation, muscle wasting. It's a fast track to feeling terrible.
So let's pivot to the finding balance part of the title, because the message here isn't give up and sit on the couch. The article is very clear. Movement is still good. It helps with mood, bone density, which is huge if you're on steroids long term, and circulation. But the strategy has to change. What does that new strategy look like?
It requires a shift from endurance to stability and capacity. The article suggests distinct changes. First, the warm-up. You can't just jump in. You need to warm up longer because your vascular system needs more time to adjust without that automatic adrenaline cortisol surge. Second, and this is the hardest one for type A personalities, you have to stop before you're done.
Stop before you're done. That sounds like blasphemy to a runner.
I know. But if you wait until you feel exhausted, you've likely already overdrawn your cortisol account. You need to leave gas in the tank for the rest of your day, for digestion, for driving home, for stress. The article points out red flags: dizziness, nausea, vision changes. If you feel those, the workout is over immediately. No just one more set.
They also make a strong case for strength training over cardio. Why is lifting weights better than running in this context?
Cardio is a steady, relentless drain on glucose and cortisol. It's a high-demand metabolic state. Strength training, specifically slow, controlled movements with rest periods, is much friendlier to the adrenal system. It builds the muscle tissue that myostatin is trying to steal. It strengthens the joints, but it allows for pauses where your blood pressure and heart rate can stabilize. It's less likely to trigger that rapid hypoglycemic crash.
It's interesting, the shift from performance to preservation. It reminds me of how we treat vintage cars. You don't redline a classic 1960s Mustang. You drive it, you enjoy it, but you listen to the engine and you treat it with a different kind of respect than a rental car.
That's a beautiful analogy, and it's about redefining what success looks like. Success used to be a personal best time or a heavier deadlift. Now, success might be completing a workout and still having the energy to cook dinner and play with your kids. That's not failure. That is intelligent adaptation.
I want to touch on the isolation aspect again before we wrap up. The article mentions that workouts that used to feel energizing now feel draining. There is a social cost to this. You can't necessarily go on that 3-hour hike with your friends anymore, or at least not without anxiety about being the slow one or having a medical emergency on the trail. How do people navigate that?
Communication is key, but it's exhausting to always have to advocate for yourself. The My Adrenal Life community emphasizes that you have to mourn the old version of yourself to accept the new one. If you're constantly comparing your current hike to the hikes you did 10 years ago, you will be miserable. But if you look at it as, I am navigating a complex chronic illness and I am still out here in nature, that is a massive victory. Also, practically speaking, carrying your emergency injection kit, having extra salt and sugar tabs, and being honest with your hiking buddies. Hey, I might need to stop for 15 minutes. It's not because I'm lazy, it's because my cortisol is lagging.
It's that transparency. It takes the shame out of it. And frankly, it probably educates the people around you. I think for anyone listening who loves someone with AI, this is your takeaway. If they say they need to stop, they aren't wimping out. They are managing a life or death balance beam act.
Absolutely. And for the patients themselves, compassion. Your muscles are fighting a chemical battle against myostatin and low energy availability. Every bit of muscle you maintain, every walk you take is hard-won. It's not lesser than exercise. It's actually harder work than what healthy people are doing.
That's a powerful reframing. It's not that you're doing less, it's that the internal resistance is higher. You're running uphill both ways, chemically speaking.
Physiologically speaking, yes. You are manual shifting a transmission that everyone else gets to drive in automatic.
So if you're listening to this and you've been beating yourself up because you can't hit your old 5K time or because you feel wiped out after a session that should be easy, stop. Read the article, understand the biology. Your body isn't betraying you. It's asking for a new partnership, a partnership based on listening, not forcing.
And remember, adaptation is a form of strength, maybe the ultimate form.
Couldn't have said it better. We'll link the full My Adrenal Life article in the show notes. It's worth a read for the science alone. If this episode resonated with you, send it to your gym buddy or your hiking partner so they can understand what's happening under the hood.